Welcome to Follow the Action. I am John Layfield. They also call me One Take John Layfield because you don't see all the takes that happen that you never get to see. So it's one take when I finally get it right. And this is Follow the Action. We've been downloading over 2,000 cities, over 60 countries, and all 50 United States because we have the guys who don't play experts on television. We got the sharp guys. When they talk about sharp, that's our guys. We got the experts, the pillars of the sports betting industry of the last several decades. And a quick intro with his bottle of Opus One. He is our man in Philadelphia. He is the legend, the Philly Rooster, and the icon. He's been compared to Rocky Balboa in Rocky II. That's where he won. That is Mr. Harry Mays. Mr. Harry Mays with the best golf podcast in the world, Swing It and Ding It. And we got both of the college kids here today, Bobby and Matt representing the college kids. The 8 Ball is represented in my screen. He's right directly in the middle. And we got a special treat for you coming up with UFC. We've got Gotham City, as he is known. He's been a longtime friend and gambler along with the Philly Godfather. He will be joining us for UFC and throughout the entire show. And the aforementioned legend himself, the Philly Godfather, fighting out of the city of brotherly love, Mr. Steve Maltepes. Philly Godfather, you ready to go?
Ready to fire, John. Let's do this.
Gotham City, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
We're glad to have you. And I want to get right off with a top 5. People love top 5s. We got UFC coming up. We got PGA, the Genesis Invitation coming up with Mr. Harry Mays, the host of Swing It and Ding It. But I'll start off with a top 5 and a couple of futures in the NCAA. Right now, as it stands, the sports book that I checked earlier today, Gonzaga, right here near me in Bethesda, Maryland, just across the line, is a plus 275 to win the big dance. Baylor at plus 300. Down in David Koresh country, for those of you that are from Texas, you happen to know directly. Drive right by it, going down to Baylor. And Michigan at plus 800. They may need Tom Brady to come back if they want to win it all. And Villanova at plus 1,200 and Illinois at plus 1,300. So let's go to the college basketball expert, the man, Mr. Opus One, the man who wins more money in college basketball than anybody in the world. That is the Philly Rooster. Philly Rooster, what do you like out of this top 5, or do you like something different?
Well, I like something in top 5, and actually, since they lost to Creighton, Villanova, they dropped a little bit in the rankings. But I think the way this bracket's going to look, and this is going to change a lot before the brackets come out. And I don't make my selection for the championship until I see the bracket because, they love to give teams like Kentucky an easy road. There's a lot going on with these brackets, but the way I plotted it out today, it looks like Villanova will be a 2 seed. And I think they would probably play a team like North Dakota State first and then end up having to beat Michigan. I think that's a winnable game for them. Now, they had a real disappointing loss against Creighton. We all know that, but their 2 best shooters, they couldn't throw it in the ocean. It was amazing. I've never seen that with Villanova this year. They're really well coached. They have a deep team. If one of their 2 stars, Gillespie or Robinson Earl, plays well, they can score. I mean, these guys are lights out shooters. I like Iowa earlier in the season, and I've seen a couple things from them, especially defensively, that scare me. But right now, I know it's a homer pick. I kind of like Villanova to hang in there, and I think they got a chance. And you can get pretty decent odds on them right now, 12-1. I'll take it.
Bobby, welcome to the show. I think this is the first time you've joined us. I've obviously got CTE, and we'll soon be hunting Easter eggs. I just hit. So if you joined us last week, welcome again. But I don't think you did. So welcome to the show, Bobby. And I understand that you got a favorite up there from Tom Brady country.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at Michigan. They have an upcoming game against, I believe, Rutgers, and then they have to play Ohio State. I like Michigan's odds at plus 900 to win the NCAA tournament. I'm not going to place a bet on them yet. I'm going to wait to see how they play in the upcoming games. But when you take a deeper look into their metrics, and I found that they were 8th in adjusted offensive efficiency and 7th in adjusted defensive efficiency. They had a more difficult strength of schedule than the two teams ahead of them in Gonzaga and Baylor. And I think they're a great free throw shooting team. So that's very important come March Madness time, late in the game. You got to hit the clutch free throws. They beat some good teams on the road, like Wisconsin, Purdue, and Maryland. And they've been outperforming the market all year long. They're 12-3 against the spread this year, and on the road they're 4-1 against the spread. So I'll be taking a closer look at them in the upcoming week. I think they have 2 games in the upcoming week, but I believe Michigan is worth a look at plus 900 odds.
Billy Godfather, what about my boys down in the great state? It's freezing down there right now. Apparently, South Padre Island is the only thing above freezing right now in the entire state of Texas, and sports have been frozen over for a while. We've canceled all football on all levels. But the Texas Longhorns, they got a shot this year?
I mean, I bet them early in the year. They've been playing a little – I mean, they've been getting brain cramps towards the end of the game. They couldn't hit their foul shots against Baylor. They gave the game away against Texas Tech. A little immaturity, but come March Madness time, they got a great coach. I think they'll be able to overcome that. And I think they got a great chance to go deep in March Madness. Now, the team that really scares me, obviously, is Gonzaga. This year, you got 2 juggernauts. You got Gonzaga and Baylor. And then it's really wide open. Like Bobby said, it's Michigan, it's Iowa, Illinois, who I also have a future on, and Villanova. Now, what scares me a little bit about Villanova is their point distribution and their effective height ratio. They barely break the top 50 in effective height ratio, and they really depend for a lot of points off that 3-point line. I think 40% of their points come from the 3-point line. So if they have an off night shooting, I mean, they could be in trouble against some of these bigger teams who are better at rebounding. Now, Villanova has a great coach, but the team to beat obviously is Gonzaga. Everyone has them ranked, number 1. They're 20-0. They got a great coach in Mark Few. The Math Geeks are basically giving them right around a 25 to 26% chance to win it all. And I think, all that stuff's great. When you look at their opponent strength this year, it's a little weak, 87th in the nation. But when you start digging deeper and you see the teams that they've beat, I mean, and they've never been in a position to lose a game all year. I mean, they were up by 14 points versus Iowa at the half. They were up by 8 versus Kansas. They were up by 14 versus Auburn and up by 13 versus Virginia. So the only team that actually gave them a little bit of trouble was West Virginia, and West Virginia was up by 5 points at the half. And then Gonzaga came out in the second half and just blew their doors off and won that game. It's just one of those teams where their point distribution, I mean, they're 91-21. So most of their points, they can beat you in so many different ways. So it's really hard to scheme against Gonzaga. You can't really just say, okay, we're going to shut down the 3-point line or we're going to beat them inside. This team can beat you in so many different ways. So at plus 300, it sounds so square. And I love taking long shots. I got Texas. I got Illinois, both at 25-1. But this team is probably one of the best college basketball teams I've seen in a long time. Now, when you look at their ATS record, it's just 8-9 with 2 pushes on the year. But that's basically because the odds makers knew how good this team was, and they overinflated their price on a night-to-night basis. But if you can grab 3-1 on a team like this right now to win it all, I think it's a good bet. I called you the other night, and, we talked about it. I said, I really want to go down to AC and put a big chunk of money on Gonzaga. I mean, it's a 3-1 return on your money on the best team in the country. And I don't think Baylor's even close. I really don't. I mean, they depend so much on the 3-point line, and they got great guard play, Baylor with 4, superstar guards, but their point distribution, again, they depend so much on that 3-point line. If they have an off night shooting, I mean, Baylor's in trouble, and their effective height ratio ranks 200 spots below Gonzaga. So even though Baylor is slightly behind Gonzaga as the favorite to win it all, and at some books are actually favored, I don't think these teams are even close, man. I think Gonzaga is the team to beat this year.
I'm right in the middle of Gonzaga territory right here in Bethesda, Maryland, which is just right next to Washington, D.C.
That's a different Gonzaga.
Different Gonzaga.
Yeah, that's a Gonzaga. That's a high school, I think, because they're in Spokane, Washington. This Gonzaga.
So you know what? See, that's what I get for moving to freaking Yankee land. Stay in Texas.
Yeah, Gonzaga. The Zags are from
I thought
Spokane.
the college was here. I really did.
Well, there might be a Gonzaga college, but it's not the one with the basketball team. That I can promise you.
I didn't want to say that, Harry. I didn't want to say that.
I think Gonzaga is over here on the map. I'm pretty sure, and probably not over here. I don't know.
They
But
play in the West Coast Conference.
I
So
read
they
that
play
Gonzaga out there. I kept thinking, man, I should go down to a game. Like, I would have been disappointed if
Can you imagine John showing up at Gonzaga looking for the basketball game?
Gonzaga to watch the best team in the country. I didn't know I had to drive to Spokane, Washington.
You gave us the laugh of the season, John. Thank you.
That is, but they are the most complete team. There's no doubt
I want to
about
make
it.
this clear. I hate all of you.
Don't worry, John. You're going to love us when Texas gets the Elite Eight and we can head to that big future we got on.
There
Yes,
you
I
go.
will. Well, the heck with it, Harry. Talk about Gonzaga and Spokane, Washington. I don't care about them anymore.
No, I mean, they are definitely the most complete team. 3-1 sounds good to me. I mean, if you look at them, they do play in a conference that is typically kind of weak. But they do play, they go outside their conference. It's such a shame that we didn't get to see them play Baylor way back in, I forget when that was, that December. That game was originally.
It got canceled. Yeah, December 5th.
Right. It got postponed because that would have been a real nice gauge to see where both of these teams were back then. I'm sure both of them are a lot different now, but they got a bunch of pros on this team. West Virginia is an intriguing team, though. That's one of those teams. They gave Gonzaga trouble, and they're one of those squads that can really make things ugly for anybody that they play. Huggins is just a master in that tournament. He gets ugly offensive teams to just ugly up games, and they win. And he's just a brilliant coach. They're a team I'd be really wary of if like Villanova is in their region. But they've beaten Iowa. Gonzaga has. They've beaten, West Virginia, like we said, Auburn, Kansas early in the year. So they go out. They beat Virginia. They go out and play teams, which I really respect. And that's it. I agree with Philly Godfather. 3-1 is hard to walk away from.
Yeah, their opponent's strength is a little weak, but you got to remember they beat all these teams on a neutral court.
Right.
It wasn't like they beat them at home, so that's
No.
even more impressive for me. And their point distribution is what does it for me. I looked at this team. I looked at who they beat, how they beat them. They've never looked vulnerable all year long. And you can't really scheme, okay, like I said, we're going to stop at the three-point line. We'll stop them down low. It's like a 93-21 split where other teams are basically 33% and higher dependent on the three-point line. So like I said, during March Madness, when you got to play back-to-back and you got to adjust and where coaching is big and you're depending so much on a three-point line, one bad shooting night could cost you the game.
Gotham City, for bringing a map, I really don't ever want to call on you ever. But since Gonzaga apparently is somewhere in Washington, I think it's right here. I think all these guys are wrong, and I think Gonzaga is right down the street from me. But that's my story. So
I appreciate it.
what do you like in college basketball? You like any of these top 5 teams?
I mean, the obvious one, with Gonzaga, Mark Few's been there. He's had a lot of experience in postseason play. 3-1 still at this stage when you know what you're getting is fantastic. But I always like to try to, like Philly Godfather says, really find some long odds and then try to hedge, as you get deeper into the tournament. We've got Illinois. I have Richmond. We have Memphis. We have some other real long odds. And we're trying to get deeper into the tournament to try to, hedge and be profitable. So I'm going to look at a team now that I think is still priced too high personally. And this is going to surprise some people, but I'm going to go with the USC Trojans. All right. I'm going to go on the West Coast with you, John, but I'm going to go just a little bit south of you.
Or USC. It's because they're a football team.
Right.
Wait, aren't they in Philly?
What's that?
USC's in Philly, right?
yeah. It's right next to the Rocky next to Harry May's radio studio.
No, not South Carolina. Okay, not South Carolina, but we're going on the West Coast. And, USC is a very underappreciated team, I think. Andy Enfield is a fantastic coach, okay? They rank 2nd in adjusted height percentage. They're 6-1 on the road. They're ranked 9th in adjusted percentage in defense at 89.4. They have a reasonable offensive adjusted efficiency of 29, and they are really good at offensive rebounding, and they're 7th in the country. The thing I like about USC is they really control the tempo. And, the way this NCAA tournament is going to be held and kind of the venue that it is, I really think the tempo is going to be a little bit bigger part of this NCAA tournament. And right now they're priced at about plus 2,500. I think that's off. I think they should be priced less, and I think it's a really nice buy at this particular time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, like you said, second effective height ratio. They don't depend on the 3-point that much, and their pace is they play at a methodical pace. So this is a team that's a sleeper, and I'm with you right there.
That was the top 5 NCAA. We got a couple of NBA experts, and so we're going to go to them to start off our NBA segment. But I want to go over the NBA teams that are right now leading as far as the sports books. Obviously, with Anthony Davis injury somewhat in doubt as to how severe it is, these will change. The Lakers are plus 220, Nets are plus 375, Clippers plus 550, Milwaukee Bucks plus 750, and the Utah Jazz plus 1,200. So our 2 NBA experts, that would be the 8-Ball and Mr. Matt from the College Kids. Start with you, Matt. I understand you've got a future for us and a breakdown on what you think of the NBA season.
Yeah, I have a couple NBA futures which I bet on. I bet the Suns to win the West at plus 2,200, Suns to win their division at 2,000, and I bet a little bit on the Suns to win the NBA championship at 49-1. I know a lot of people probably think I'm crazy for that. They're talking about the Lakers, the Clippers, the Jazz, and I understand that, but just listen to me real quick. This Suns team, they play great basketball. They're a top 5 team at not turning over the ball. They're one of the best teams in the league at defending the 3, and the NBA is turning to a 3-point league. And they're so balanced on offense and defense. They're 7th in defensive efficiency, 8th in offensive efficiency. And this team's pretty good. They have a starting lineup of Chris Paul, who hasn't really slowed down at all. Great shooting guard in Devin Booker, who can score the ball at will. Mikal Bridges, he's a guy that I loved, but Sixers didn't end up getting him. They sent him out to Phoenix. And he's grown so much as a player, 3-and-D player. And then they have some options. Okay, you have Frank Kaminsky, who's a 7-footer. DeAndre Ayton, talented player, 7 foot. And then they also have Jay Crowder if they want to go small, and Dario Saric. So they have some options there depending on their matchup. Okay, now let's go to the teams they beat. They beat the Utah Jazz, who they have a record of 23-5. They're number 1 against the spread in the NBA at 21-7 against the spread, and they beat them in Utah. They beat Denver in Denver, who's 15-12. They went to the conference championship last year. They beat Milwaukee. They were the number 1 seed in the East last year. They beat the Sixers, who's the number 1 seed in the East this year. They beat a Boston team that's very talented, Toronto team that's in the playoffs every year, Indiana team that's been in the playoffs the last couple of years, and a Golden State team that's positioned to be in the playoffs this year. They almost beat the Clippers. They ended up losing by 5 in a close game. But every other good team they've versed, they've beaten. They hold a 67% win rate against teams in position to make the playoffs. Their record is 8-4 against those teams. The 4 of their losses came against the Clippers, which I just talked about, which was a close game. The second was against Denver in a game that went OT, where the line was right around a pick. And then Denver and the Suns played again a day after that. And that game went to double OT on a back-to-back without Devin Booker. And then the last loss was the other night when I bet the Suns -3, went to like 8.5. They were up 24. Then second half, they came out. They thought they won the game already. They weren't playing serious. The Nets came back. Harden caught fire, and they ended up beating them. But in the 12 games they played, like I said, they're 8-4 straight up, 8-4 against the spread in those games. And a lot of those games, they were actually dogs. There's some great numbers to be at. When we look at the top 2 teams against the spread in the NBA, outperform the market. Utah Jazz, number 1. Number 2 is the Phoenix Suns. Okay, they're saying that's very true. Good teams win, great teams cover. Not only are they number 2 against the spread in the NBA, but they're one of the top teams in margin of victory and against the spread plus minus. Now, 3 teams ahead of the Suns in the West: Clippers, Lakers, Jazz. Of those teams, the Clippers had an easier strength of schedule than the Suns, and the Suns came close to beating them. We already talked about they're 2.5 games away, I believe, in the standings. And I keep saying Kawhi and Paul George in the injury report. They've been battling injuries all year. So if that continues and they're banged up throughout the season, I think the Suns have an opportunity to edge them there. And not just that, but the Clippers, for the rest of the year, they had the hardest remaining strength of schedule in the NBA. All right, so now we have the Lakers. Their strength of schedule so far has been identical to the Suns. Now they just lost AD to an Achilles injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but he's going to be out for a while. It's going to hurt this team. LeBron's 35 years old. He has to carry this team on the back. And the last game, he was actually down to the Memphis Grizzlies by like 23 points. He ended up taking a Herculean effort to come back and win that game. They're not going to be able to do that every game, okay? Not just that, but the Lakers are right behind the Clippers in second hardest remaining schedule in the NBA. Then for the Jazz, the Suns have already proven they can beat the Jazz, and not just beat them, but beat them in Utah by double digits. To me, there's too much value on this team right now, especially with all the circumstances, with the remaining schedule of the Clippers and Lakers and how hard they are, number one and number two hardest schedules in the league remaining. I think there's so much value at plus 2,000 to win their division, plus 2,200 to win the West, and plus 4,900 to win the championship.
How's Gonzaga going to do in the NBA? All right, let's go to. I know where San Antonio is. Remember the Alamo, Mr. Jim Bowie, Davy Crockett. And I understand, 8-Ball, you've got a little bit of Popovich future here going on. It's my favorite teams in the whole world, the San Antonio Spurs. 8-Ball, what do you got for us in the future?
Well, I've got the Spurs to win the Southwest Division plus 300. They're playing great basketball right now. They're 16-11. They're 3 games ahead of the Mavericks, 3.5 ahead of the Memphis Grizzlies. They're 5-1 in their last 6 games. And in that stretch, they're second in defensive efficiency. Popovich has figured out his lineups. They've got a mixture of young guys like Vessel, DeJounte Murray, Johnson, Lonnie Walker, mixed in with veterans like Patty Mills, Aldridge, DeRozan. They can go small, they can go big, and they're playing really good basketball right now. And you have the Mavericks in the division, obviously Luka, MVP candidates, putting up numbers. That team can't play a lick of defense, and I don't know if they can flip the switch this year. You have the Memphis Grizzlies, another team can't play a lick of defense at all. And I think the Spurs plus 300 right now, too much value. You have the best coach in the NBA, arguably. You have a team playing great, and they're 8 to 10 guys deep. I think, with a 3-game lead, getting plus 300 on these guys to win a division, I think it's a great opportunity.
I love to hear that the Spurs I get to bet on my San Antonio Spurs. I'm Popovich. I was there at the Admirals' last game when they won the championship that year in the 6th game. So tell me about the Suns -3 there at Gotham City. What happened this past week?
Last night, we got some good information. We liked the game, opened at -3. It got bet up to 8 in most spots. 2 key players not playing. The first half went according to plan, where the Suns were up 21, I believe, at halftime. And then in the fourth quarter, James Harden turned it on. They outscored the Suns by 16 and won the game by 4. And this kind of goes with the argument, and I won't get the Philly Godfather started, but there's a lot of discussion about closing line value. All right. And closing line value means that when you get a team at -3 and that line goes to 8, not only have you effectively beat the market, you've beat the closing line value more than anyone in the universe. What people forget is that when you go to the window and you hand the ticket to the guy or the girl that's there, you have to win the bet. Closing line value means nothing if it doesn't win.
Philly Godfather, we got Utah Jazz right now are just absolutely killing it, and they're plus 1,200. Do you see any value in this top 5 teams here as far as future picks?
I mean, the way Matt broke down his future, how can you argue against him? I mean, that's one of the greatest breakdowns I've ever heard in my life. And, I mean, Utah's been outperforming the market. They're playing lights out, but you're going to see a regression on this team. You can't continue at that pace, at that win rate, continue to outperform the market. The odds makers are going to adjust on this team. But, I mean, they're playing great basketball. And with AD out, I mean, people are talking about now LeBron's going to pick up, all the weight on his shoulders, and he's going to be the next MVP. But they might try to put it in cruise control, and they do have a tough remaining schedule, like Matt said. Clippers also have a tough remaining schedule. So it's either Utah Jazz or, the selection that Matt gave out. One of those teams is going to win the West.
Harry, we got PGA coming up, and we're talking about the NBA right now. I know you follow your 76ers and the NBA very carefully. What do you got as far as what we just went over with the NBA?
Well, as far as the 76ers, I mean, if they're going to get the kind of play that they've gotten out of Ben Simmons these last couple of games, if that's the trend for Ben Simmons being aggressive on the offensive end, things are really going to shape up well for them. They need better production and more consistent production out of him. And I know he can fill up the stat sheet on some nights, and some nights they're hollow numbers. But if as these games get down to crunch time, they start to get closer and closer to the playoffs. Anything they can get as far as offensive production out of him is going to just make everything better. It can't all be on Embiid. They're not shooting enough 3-pointers. They need to shoot more 3-pointers. Green and Curry really have not lived up to what my expectations were yet of them. They're going to need more out of them, and they're probably going to need to make a move at the deadline for more shooting.
Billy Rooster, I know you're sitting there with your Opus One. Not really a big NBA guy, much more college basketball, but you got any thoughts on the NBA?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about, first of all, I have a futures bet on the Nets, but I got it at a really good number. I took in November, I took plus 750 to win the championship, plus 375 to win the East. I mean, the way I look at the NBA is right now, the game has changed, and I've been betting the NBA for 25 years. They're resting these guys, and I love Devin Booker, and I think Phoenix is good. But I think what we're going to see as we come into the playoffs, the resting's going to stop. They're going to give AD plenty of time to heal up, and it's going to be the heavy hitters again. It's going to be the Clippers, the Lakers, the Nets. I'd love to see the Sixers in there, but I still don't think with their shooting issues they can overtake the Bucks. I think the top four are Lakers, Clippers, Bucks, and Nets. And in the NBA, let's face it, over the last few years with these super teams, the cream has risen, when you get to the playoffs, unless there's a major injury. So, I mean, I'm rooting my Nets bet in. I'm going to make a little bet on the Suns because I love Devin Booker, and I do agree with that breakdown. But I think we're going to see the cream rise to the top.
Rooster, you don't think with that nagging injury that AD has and the fact that the Lakers won it last year, I mean, it's so hard to repeat in any sport, and their strength of schedule moving forward, it's going to be real tough for this team. And you got an aging LeBron who's going to try and put the world on his shoulders, and he might end up getting banged up if he's trying too hard and if he's not resting enough. Do you still think the Lakers got a chance to do what they did last year?
I do, and the reason is because they're going to rest AD. There's no reason to rush him back. They don't care if they go in as a 4 seed. Like once LeBron turns it on, and look, I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. I love Kobe, but you got to admit, when this guy wants to turn it on in the playoffs, he turns it on. And if they give him 4 weeks, let's right now they're saying 2 to 4 weeks. Let's say they give him the full 4 weeks, and the Lakers squeak in as a 4 seed or a 3 seed. This guy's going to turn it on again. I mean, he looks better now than he did 5 years ago. And I can't explain it. It's kind of like Tom Brady. I'm not betting against another one of these old parts. Not again.
Well, I mean, LeBron, what's he spent $1 million a year on his body or something, John? That's what I
He's
heard.
just like Brady, yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. He and Russell Wilson both spend a fortune on it. You're making 15, 20 million. It makes sense. You're investing in yourself. And LeBron just keeps getting better and better. The question I would have is that LeBron wants to win another NBA MVP, and he's playing a lot more minutes right now than he normally plays. And is that going to affect him going into the playoffs? Because normally, like Rooster says, you do rest him. But I think right now he's looking at his legacy and history, and he seems to be playing a lot more minutes right now because he wants to win an MVP and be up there with Jordan and the greats of all time.
Yeah, 8-ball. I mean, do you think LeBron has a great chance? I know there's some short money that took LeBron to win the MVP, but who do you like to win the MVP this year?
If the Sixers get the 1 seed with the numbers Embiid is putting up, I don't see how LeBron can overtake that unless the Lakers just keep rolling the way they're rolling, which I don't see happening. Lakers have had one of the shortest layoffs since their last championship. They won a championship in October. They're playing in December. They're playing overtime games, double overtime games. It's all going to add up. And I think down the stretch, they're going to start resting LeBron a couple games here. He's not going to be playing back-to-backs. So I think they're going to take care of AD, LeBron. And I think if Embiid keeps putting up 30 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, gets the number 1 seed in the East, I think he should be a favorite to win it.
Yeah, plus 450. I mean, it seems like a better bet to me, John.
Bobby, do you have something on the NBA with LeBron or any of these future picks?
I did kind of agree with the Rooster when he said that I could see them now sitting AD out and then coasting off into the playoffs because there's no home court advantage this year. There's a few stadiums that are allowing a few thousand fans. So it's not like you're really getting that home court advantage this year that you usually would get, and you try for the higher seed. It's kind of like they can coast off and turn it up when playoffs come.
I'm shocked you're not picking LeBron for MVP, Bob. I know how much you love him.
Yeah, I know. I could see him being MVP, but my heart stays with Embiid. I got to go with my Sixer there.
You may love LeBron, but I want somebody to love me the way Steve loves Brady.
How can you not love somebody who made you a lot of money?
You see how mad the trophy maker was that Brady said he disgraced the trophy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, screw you. The guy won 7 Super Bowls, and you're mad worried about your trophy?
They should name it the Tom Brady Trophy.
That's right. They should
Yeah,
rename
you know what? They do need to rename it the Tom Brady
it
Trophy.
the MVP trophy at least. Yeah.
At least.
Well, Harry, we got to go to golf. Not got to go to golf. We get to go to golf. And last week, we got screwed.
Yeah, well,
screwed.
Yeah,
You-
we got
you had it
screwed.
right.
We got screwed on the draw.
Yeah, you said if the wind was going to be very low, which it was at Pebble, the
Mhm.
guys that got Spyglass first were going to be screwed. And Phil Mickelson, who I took in my moves tournament, exactly how it played out.
Yeah.
No wind the first day, guys destroyed Pebble. Then the wind comes in as they switch courses. So
Yeah, this is but that's the last multiple course event. So I'm glad of that because you're really at the mercy of the draw, which guys are playing which course on which day and what weather you're getting. So from here on in, it's one golf course and you hope to make the cut after 2 rounds and play all 4 at the same course. But yeah, last week, I'll tell you, I salvaged the week with a Daniel Berger pick on early Saturday morning because I'd been watching on Thursday and Friday, and he looked the most complete to me over those first 2 days. And I grabbed him at plus 300 for the win, and it came through even despite double bogeying the 18th hole on Saturday, which I think shot his odds up a little bit higher for even Sunday if you took him to win, because I know I had some people that grabbed him on Sunday as well. Streelman would have come through on the top 10 were it not for the solo one-car crash into the turn 4 on the 16th hole when he airmailed the green on his approach and he ends up making double bogey. He went from a T7 down to 13th place with those extra 2 shots. So we got screwed there, but did salvage the weekend. You got to follow me on Twitter at Harry Mays TU because I'll put those plays out. That's a really good way to play golf too. Watch see what the tournament's giving you in these first 2 days, and then go for a win bet on Saturday morning before round 3, and you can even do it before round 4 as well. Got a lot of plays here for this one. This is one of my favorite venues on the PGA Tour each year, Riviera Country Club. This is a top shelf field. Last week was very light, only 3 top 20 players in the field. This is like a major. Everybody and anybody's playing in this tournament. It's a George Thomas design, who locally designed White Marsh Valley here in the Philadelphia area. He's designed some of the best golf courses in Los Angeles, and this is definitely one of them. Narrow fairways, small greens, old school golf. This was a place they called Hogan's Alley, and if you don't hit irons well, you're not going to score well at Riviera. So strokes gained approach and strokes gained around the greens are the 2 biggest metrics that you would look to when looking to stock up your DFS lineup or any of your gambling plays. Those are 2 big metrics. One DFS play to throw out there. Sergio Garcia has made 11 of 13 cuts at this event, and he's had 7 top 25s in this event. He likes this venue. He's a guy I would definitely put in a DFS lineup. Great iron player. Joaquin Neiman, too.
Hey, and by the way, I don't want to interrupt you, Harry, but your DFS pick last week, Spieth, almost won.
Yes.
Yeah,
He's that way. He's had now 2 straight top 5s. Had a trouble closing. Didn't have the best weekend. Made an incredible eagle on Saturday with mud on his ball on the 16th hole from the fairway to really salvage that round. Got him into the final group on Sunday, and he shot 70. Not what you need when you got Daniel Berger shooting 65, but DFS lineups definitely loved him. He's playing again this week. I would definitely throw him in. He's starting to figure it out. He just needs to close. Joaquin Neiman, though, is another guy who's made 8 straight cuts on tour, and he's had second in his last 2 events. Tremendous iron player from Chile, young kid. He's got an elastic spine. You watch him hit the golf ball, my back hurts because I don't know how he does it, but he's unbelievable. I'm going to take him in a matchup at -112 over Scotty Scheffler. Another matchup that I like, which is kind of a contrarian play. Kevin Na, who has played in this tournament since 2004 every year. He knows every putt on the golf course. He's a tremendous putter, plus 100 over this Zalatoris kid, which everybody loves. I've played him a couple times in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to fade him here in this spot. He's never played in this event before, and he's at minus 125. I'm taking the experience over the youth there in a contrarian play on a matchup. I'm also going to go with a couple of top 20s, top 30s, and a top 10. We'll start with the top 30s. Carlos Ortiz is a great iron player. He's had 2 top 20 in this event before. He's at plus 150 for a top 30. He's been playing well. Not a lot of people give him a whole lot of attention. He's a really good player. Max Homa is a guy on a heater right now. He just keeps getting better and better each week. He had a great week at Pebble last week. He's a California guy, plays this golf course well, finished T5 last year. He's plus 125 for a top 30. I can't avoid that. I can't pass that up. Xander Schauffele is a guy that I like top 10, plus 138. He's due to close something out. He's had a really good run here, just cannot close. But top 10 at plus 138, I think is good. And I think he's going to be in the mix definitely late on Sunday. Colin Morikawa and Victor Hovland are 2 guys I like, but I know you love Victor Hovland for your moves play, John, right?
I do. I was going to ask you about Victor Hovland. We talked about it earlier before the show. Is Victor Hovland? Is he the guy that I put into my moves play? I mean, I got to make up some ground here in this move bracket.
Yeah, you had Mr. Moobs, really, man boobs,
Yes,
Phil Mickelson last week, blew it for us. Hovland is a guy that I might use somewhere else along, the schedule, though. He's that good. He's playing in this tournament for his first time, but his last 5 events, he's been top 6 in 4 of his last 5 events. So he's playing really well. I think his game travels to any golf course, whether he's played it before or not. So I don't think that's a bad play at all. He was one of my top 20s at plus 150. So if you want to play Hovland, I think he's definitely going to score here.
Would you save him for a major or the World Golf Championship, or was this something that you should use because that's the strategy of the bracket that I'm in?
Yeah, he is, but I'll tell you, there's plenty of guys. I mean, I've done these types of things before, and you get down to these last events, and you're like, oh my God, I got 6 of these guys left, and you only have 4 tournaments. You start to save. Next thing you know, you're falling behind because other guys are using better players.
Gotham City, I understand that you also had a matchup pick for this weekend.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a price kind of matchup. Usually you don't get Rory McIlroy is a dog, but in this matchup, there's a matchup with Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele. And it should be noted, Xander Schauffele should probably be the favorite. Xander's coming off a pretty tough finish a couple weeks ago and coming to a golf course here. Rory McIlroy is plus 100 in most spots, sometimes in plus 105. And there's a lot of sharp professional money playing Rory McIlroy this week at that dog price. We like Rory to have a really good tournament here and possibly a top 5.
Does Rory win a major this year, Harry?
I think, if he can dial in wedges, a lot of times he has problems dialing in his wedges. He's the best driver of the golf ball on tour. I mean, there's nobody really even close to him. He's a little inconsistent with the putter, but I mean, he's a guy that has the talent to win each and every week that he tees it up.